YouTube, and hit him with the countdown. Millionaire podcast, Charles Oaksby, Todd, Millionaire, and you guys are in for a good one. I'm gonna hit you with the intro though. So we're out here, man. We got a few people tuned in. Make sure you guys share this out to your Twitter, share it out to your Instagram followers, anybody who could potentially be benefiting from this conversation. I was reading through the description of himself that he gave me, and it was really cool because he's in the Michigan area, specifically Pontiac, Michigan. He built $1 million portfolio by anticipating that larger companies are going to be coming to the area, which is interesting because we've been seeing that a lot in Detroit. And I've kind of been a little bit off Detroit a little bit. Literally just got off a phone with my contractor, and I was telling him, like, finish this house so I can be done. And he was like, hopefully we can move on to a next. I was like, I don't even know, man. I do not know if I want to do another one of these Detroit homes for several reasons. But you've been doing it successfully, built a massive portfolio, and we're going to talk about it, man. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So can you tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from?
So my name is Darius Keller. I'm from Pontiac, Michigan. I've been staying in Michigan for my entire life. I probably lived in Detroit for a little bit over a year before I came back to Pontiac during my college timeline. But that's you want to talk about the investing, like go straight into it?
We'll get into that, but I think what's interesting is one thing that I learned about Michigan is once you get out of like Detroit, a lot of Michigan is very nice. It's very green. It's very suburban. It's really a vibe, man. And the cost of living is very affordable. I played at some really nice golf courses for like 50, 60 bucks. In California, those same golf courses would be like $100 plus. And a large part of it is because you guys get all seasons. You have a good amount of water out there. And so Michigan really is doper than what people think. I think Michigan kind of gets the Africa treatment where they only show the bad side of Michigan and not the amazing parts of Michigan. So I'm actually kind of big on Michigan, and it's just Detroit been stressing me out, man.
Well, you know, Pontiac is a smaller city outside Detroit. It's about 35 minutes. We're a rising city. I would say just within the last maybe 3 years ago, we didn't have many of the big name companies like Amazon, United Wholesale Mortgage, Lease Construction's another one. There's some other companies that are targeting up the Pontiac area. I think before that, we were known for the Pontiac Silverdome. Are you aware of that?
I'm not.
That used to be that's like the stadium where the Detroit Lions used to play at.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. The Lions having a pretty okay season. When did you get into real estate?
Yeah, so I started in real estate back in 2014. Just struggling, you know, in college at the time. Well, just not feeling, about to finish up my master's degree in 2014, and still a janitor at the time. Still in that grind, you know, and I was just looking for a home. You know, I was looking for a home, either rent, land contract, or mortgage a home. The real estate market was real low at that time. Homes around this area were like 10 to 20 grand was a reasonable price to get a home. We were still suffering from the 2008 recession. And so basically when I say we, it's me and my wife, we were hunting for a home. during that time we were hunting for a home, we did see opportunity to buy fixer uppers, and that's what got us in the home that I'm in right now. I'm still in the same home I bought in 2014, my first one. I'm still living in it. So, and
So your first house, how did you end up buying that house? Was it because you went through a bunch of different options? What did you settle on?
so I settled on buying. So we saved up cash. Homes were going fast though at the time, even though they were $10,000 and the market was really disrupted at the time. The homes were still like selling like within a day. So 10 grand was still a struggle to buy a home. I'm just trying to illustrate the picture, you know. Uh, so when we bought the first property, it was like there was no copper in it. It was a 2-story colonial, about 1,200 square feet. Probably it's probably in a I would say a B- neighborhood per se. Um, but we weren't buying it to like make money on. We were just buying it to live in it, fix it up as we go, that kind of thing. I ended up buying a second property right after that one, about a street and a half, about 2 streets away from the first one I bought. I bought it for $2,500. Believe it or not, it's actually probably my most valuable home out of the portfolio.
Really?
It's probably worth around 225,000 roughly. It's interesting as well because my wife's realtor, she sold the property next door to it. The investor bought it for 13,000 about a year ago and sold it for she sold it for 150,000, 10,000 above asking price. So you can imagine how the values have changed, drastically, right? That same property, I also it's sitting on a triple lot. I bought the lot in between that, in between the houses for about $250. So it's like, it's crazy. It's like night and day between 2014 and, these times now. But again, I was buying it without the idea of investing and making money. I didn't understand how to really make money in real estate, the power of it.
Yeah. So where you guys living before you bought this house?
Oh, so I was renting a home. So I was living with her dad, and he was renting a home from a relative of theirs. So we were all in the same house at the time.
On the same house? Were you guys paying any rent, or you just living there?
Yeah, we were paying about back in 2013-ish, around that time, we were paying about $750 in rent. In 2012, I remember I was renting out a house. It was just me and my wife at the time. We were renting out for $720 a month. So that gives you an idea, the ballpark of when I explain the how the rent has changed.
Yeah.
So my first tenant was actually her parents. So after I remodeled the second home, the $2,500 home, I fully remodeled it, and they moved in, and that's how I kind of like learned how to fix up the properties. It took me 2 properties to understand how to repair drywall, do electrical, do plumbing, that kind of thing. So let me try to give you a time frame. So in 2014, I bought the first property. In 2015, I bought the second property, right? But in between that year of time, there was a lot of learning that was accumulated, and a lot of people I've also met along the way. One of the guys was an electrical engineer. He actually was a young guy, bought a house across the street from me, from my first house. Offered him to if he wanted some water or anything, because their house didn't have any water. It was a rehab, and if you need to use the restroom or anything like that, just let me know. And I lucked out, and he was like, he pretty much knew how to do everything. So he took me underneath his wing and taught me electrical. Once you know electrical, you understand the routing and stuff. It makes it a lot easier to grasp all the other trades. So that's kind of like how I was able
Why
to
do you
get a
say
quick.
that? I'm curious. Why do you say that? Is it
Why do I say?
because Yeah, are you talking when you're saying other trades? You're talking like HVAC, plumbing.
Well, once you know electrical, plumbing is routing. I mean, electrical is mostly routing, right? Like routing the wires, knowing where they're going. Once you learn that, I was able to learn the plumbing in a day because it's really just routing, And now they make things so easy nowadays with the quick connects, the shark bites and stuff like that. PVC is just practically just plastic and glue, right? So that's why I mentioned that. So that was between those two trades. Once you know electrical, your confidence is a lot higher. You can troubleshoot your way through gas lines and connecting gas pipes and stuff like that. So
you do all that stuff yourself.
Oh yeah. Now I can build the house up I can build a house from the ground up. Just leave the frame there. I've done everything except like major sewer repair. Put it that way. Literally.
So you've done drywall, you've done mudding, you've done all that stuff.
Mudding, roofing. I done my $2,500 house. It cost $2,500, and believe me, there was you pay what you get for. You pay what you get. So I had to redo the whole entire house. And once I did that the second time, I knew what I was doing construction wise. So,
so when you were doing all this, did you make any mistakes?
Yeah. Want me to go ahead and share my biggest mistake?
Absolutely.
So my biggest mistake, I own 9 properties. I've owned a total of 10 properties from 2014 to now. I purchased 5 properties in 2021. From the start of 2021 to the end of 2021, I purchased about 5 properties. My biggest mistake was in 2015 was going to that house and repairing everything without using any debt. I had a paid off house, but it was not wise to do because the market changed. It took me 2 years from the day I purchased the house to the day I got done finishing remodeling the house. It took me 2 years to fully do everything. During that 2 years of time, the prices jumped. When I was initially buying, prices were around $10,000 a property, a rehab property. And the rehab pricing changed to the acquisition cost changed from $10,000 to $50,000 in that 2 years of time. Literally, it was like night and day. Now, what I should have done is I should have purchased the properties in 2014, exhausted all my money, boarded the houses up, don't do any repairs, any remodeling on the properties, and then when 2020 hit or 2021 hit, then unload some, sell some properties, and then rehab some properties, as well as leverage the properties. And I probably would have had, who knows how many, right? So that's honestly my biggest mistake. And that's what I'm doing now is that I purchased, like in 2021, I purchased 5 properties, and some of them are occupied and some of them are boarded up. So
do you buy in the same area, like the Pontiac area?
No, that's actually a really good question. So what I did is I took that philosophy, that theory, and I applied it to the Flint area. So before I was purchasing properties in Pontiac, the values have gotten so high that I'm losing the speed. I'm purchasing 1 property a year versus purchasing 2-3 properties a year, right? And so when I went to Flint, I bought 1 house just to try it out. That was when they set that eviction ban. It was like back in
2020 times.
It was like there was 2 announcements though. The second one is when I was like, okay, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to give it a shot. So the first one, I went out there. I bought a remodel home for about $35,000. It was pretty much ready to go. I'll put it on the market to rent. My wife put it on the market to rent. She's the one who actually handles all the sourcing for the rentals. And there was a big attraction. So I was able to research the incomes of the applicants and stuff like that. Everything looked real good. So what I did is I bought 3 more in Flint at back to back to back. I went to the Genesee County Land Bank auction, and I bought 3. My friend bought like 7 of them, and things have been very, very good since then. So, like I said, some of them are for rent, are already rented out, and some of them are boarded up.
Yeah. So a lot of people, when they hear areas like Flint, they start to kind of get like, oh no, Flint, water crisis. And there's also like a big crime thing. They're like, I'm not buying there. What made you still want to move in?
Right. So I look at Detroit and I look at Flint and Pontiac. Those are the very you froze there. So I look at Detroit, Flint, and Pontiac as 3 good areas for starting in investors to start in. They're very good entry points. Pontiac's, in my opinion, and I've said this a lot on Bigger Pockets, but Pontiac has extreme high rents compared to Detroit and Flint. From the what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the purchase price, the rehab costs, and then in third, the amount of rent you're paying, the amount of rent you're earning on the average. Let me give you an example. In Pontiac, you can purchase a $42,000 property right now today from a wholesaler. People think you can't do it. You can definitely do it, and you can rent it out for $1,400 to $1,600 a month with very little rehab. In that same property, it'll probably worth roughly $100,000. And I'm talking about a 2-bedroom property. And I'm talking about a property that's very similar. That's very similar to a property that I have right now. Okay. In Detroit, in my opinion, when you go to Detroit, the rehab is increased as far as the permitting as well. The permitting is different in Detroit than it is in Pontiac. Even though it's a Michigan city, it's different. It's actually a lot more, what do you call it? They're more strict. Like, for example, I think there's 2 electrical codes for Detroit single family houses, and there's only 1 electrical code for Pontiac single family housing. Okay. Now, when you look at Detroit and you look at Flint, the infrastructure is already there. It's already built. All the homes are not there. There's many homes that are condemned, but the integrity of the homes are still very good. The rehab, meaning that the rehab is very minimal. Right? You go to Detroit, you turn to the left, you have 20,000 homes still got to be knocked down. It will cost me $40,000-$50,000 just to remotely get some of them homes close to livable, not including the amount of time, right? So where you got to look at time as well. Where Flint, I'm paying a very small amount. Yes, I'm not making as much rent as in Detroit, but I can own a lot more real estate and I can be way more effective in Flint than I could in Detroit. If you take $100,000 to Flint and $100,000 in Detroit, you can be way more effective in Flint. And it's actually a lot harder it's a lot harder to hunt for tenants in Flint than it is Detroit. So you got to be comfortable with that too, as far as hunting for tenants. So, it has its pros and cons.
Jobs out there, probably less jobs in Flint than there are in Detroit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it's still a commutable distance. It's not that far away.
From Pontiac, it's about 42 miles. So it's but the rent money's so good, it's I think it's worth it.
Yeah. So where are you now in terms of like entire portfolio?
So right now we have nine properties. I live in one, so there 8 of them are investment properties. 6 of them are occupied. I'm sorry, 5 of them are occupied. 2 of them are boarded up, and 1 of them I'm actually evicting the tenant. I just bought one 3 months ago in Pontiac for 50. I think it was like for $50,000 or so, like $52,000 or something like that in Pontiac. Again, I just bought it a few months ago. People think that you can't buy deals anymore because the market's high. I'm still in front of you right now on the live camera telling you, I'm buying houses for 1/3 of the value. That same house for $50,000 that I bought, there's a house listed for sale for $225, 1 or 2 streets away. And my wife just submitted an offer. They got rejected on one that was listed for $170,000. That's actually pending right now. So about 2 streets away. the other side of it. So that just lets you know how much equity there is in the property that I just bought a few months ago. Yeah. So you don't necessarily, people think that you make money from the rent. Like, yeah, rent money is good, but it doesn't really change the, when I buy a property, I'm trying to change the entire landscape of what I'm doing. So yes, the rent money is good, but when I buy in, I'm looking for instant equity. When I saw that there was a tenant occupying the property, I knew right away that the property was somewhat in livable condition. And and when I look at the comparables around, they're like, $150,000 mark. That lets me know that, okay, I bought it for 50. The bank could loan me 75% of that value. Let's say if it's worth $100,000, worst case scenario, I know I'm going to walk away with at least 75, my money plus half of what I invested. You see where I'm going? So I'm going to walk away with 75,000. And that's honestly, that's a great scenario for me.
What kind of banks are you working with to do something like this? Because I know in Michigan, a lot of times we presume that no banks will finance a property that you can get for 50 grand or less. But how are you still making that happen?
Okay, so there was a lot of trial and error with with getting financing through banks. The bank I go through now is Prime Lending. I use those guys faithfully, and the reason why is the speed. They're very fast, which is important. They already have all my paperwork. When you have 9 houses, you got to go through all the paperwork. Plus, you got to go through your job income. All the rental income's got to be exposed. So there's a lot of paperwork where Prime Lending, because I'm able to work, go to them every time. It's pretty much a phone call. I use the cash and refinance loan product, but I also use the credit cards as well. So credit union Vibe is who I go through for my credit cards. So their credit card product, I think it's pretty impressive because you can use, I think they loan up to like 35,000 in a credit card. So that allows me to have cash available on the sideline. That it allows me to have cash available ready. So when a deal comes up, I can go and purchase it. I don't have to wait. I don't have to go through any bank, applications or none of that. So I'm always ready to buy a deal when it comes up, because that's what's important. If a deal came up today, most people on live right now would not be ready to purchase that deal. But if a deal came up today, I'm ready to go within minutes. Right. Mm-hmm. So my wife already has the automatic emails to my from MLS to my email account. I get that email, and I'm so confident in my area that I'll submit a blind offer. I won't even walk through it, and I'm going to waive all the inspections. So, oh yeah, I've done that numerous times. Wow. So,
how are you finding deals right now in this market?
So to find a deal in a hard market like this, you got to find a problem. You got to find a problem, because you're going to get paid on the problems that you solve, right? So let's use the house I bought just a few months ago. The problem was that the current owner died. He died. He died. There was a tenant living in there for 19 years. Okay. The tenant didn't want to get out. The tenant wanted to be evicted. Okay. That was the scenario. Everybody who came and seen the house is listed for like $75,000. Everybody came and seen the house, didn't want to evict the tenant, So there's your problem, right? You got a tenant who's being a nuisance, doesn't want to leave, So what I came in and did is I offered, something reasonable, which to them, which was, $25 grand less. waive all inspections. I'll sign in the dotted line, and I'll work, and I'll allow the tenant to live there for an extended period for free. And that's what got the deal done. So
was the tenant paying or they weren't paying?
This tenant was not paying because I think the contract was lost because, like I said, the previous owner had passed away.
I like it though, because by you getting a discount, but then allowing them to live there for free,
because
you gotta
imagine that the tenant's been there 19 years, so it's like there is some the new owners had some sympathy for her. You understand what I'm saying, right?
Right. But what I think about that is you kind of factored in the tenant living there for free. You're essentially getting rent. That discount is your rent.
Yeah.
And then once the tenant leaves, now you're going to get your true value for the property. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. And so you said to find a deal, you got to find a problem. And that's the gem. I like it. What is something that you've experienced throughout this whole process that you didn't expect?
That's a good question. I thought it was going to be easier. I thought it was going to be a lot easier. I didn't think I was going to need as many properties to get to my financial goal, which is, to get like I want $1 million in cash, and to do it in real estate, it's actually harder than what it appears, and I can quantify that as well. For example, to get $1 million in cash, if you did 5 flips and earned 200,000 in profit, that's $1 million. That's $1 million, right? Now to do 10 flips and earn 100,000 in profit, that's also $1 million. To do 10 flips is, as one, not being a team, not having a team of people supporting you is actually very difficult. I think in this area, so
absolutely
right. So that's probably the one thing that I became more aware of, how hard it is to reach some of them financial goals, as getting like I said, netting $1 million from real estate. Now it's definitely possible. You can do it. I'm doing it through accumulating, refinances, rents, my working income. Also, I do a little bit of stocks, so I'm going to do it through accumulating instead of like flipping, because I don't flip real estate. So,
but you can also do it by increasing the value.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is what you've been doing, and so the wealth comes through patience, not through just like kind of pushing through and trying to forcing it. So you buy a bunch of properties at a good point, and you're patient, and before you know it, you have that $1 million, as opposed to I gotta flip, I gotta work, I gotta grind, I gotta this, I gotta that. You just gotta kind of let the property and the tenants work for you, because as the property is increasing in value, they're also paying off whatever debt's on there. And so like one of my favorite quotes is like, how do you get to $1 million? Well, you buy $1 million worth of property and let the tenants pay off the property. Right. And I thought that was like profound. I was like, wow, that makes too much sense. And while you're doing all that, you could also be hustling and grinding and flipping and dipping and all that stuff. But flipping is hard work, man. A lot of people do think that a lot of people think that real estate in general is easy. And what I found is it really is a grind. There's really not too much passive about it. I mean, even dealing with tenants, like it's going to be a lot of stress just getting that person out, because what happens if after a year they're like, nah, I decided I don't want to leave. So it's like you've been banking on them leaving for a year, and then they decide they don't want to leave. And now it's like, what are we going to do now?
Right. Another way to look at it as well is, I'm a big believer in the 2% rule. And if I get $1 million in debt, I can earn 20,000 a month. So that's another way to look at it as well. Okay, can I borrow $1 million? I'm about 600,000 in debt right now, and I'm in. So 400,000 to borrow 400,000 more is really not that far when you have as many properties as I do. So
Why do you say that?
because I got let's see, I got about 5 properties that have no debt on them. So it's a matter of me picking up the phone and doing a cash or refinance for many of the properties.
Mm-hmm.
How I'm able to like to get qualified for that amount of debt is like I said, I have the rent money, but I also my working income. I'm an engineer during the day, so I went to school and stuff, and I earned a job in the automotive industry, working as an automotive engineer.
That's dope. That's dope. So I think what's cool is, again, we're talking about the properties really doing the work. So yeah, you're coming alongside of it, but I mean, you go to somebody with some free and clear properties that are producing cash flow, they're gonna give you the bread, man.
Yeah,
They're gonna give you the money because you're gonna be able to service that loan either with your working income or the rental income, and then they still have something to attach that loan to, which is your property. And so the moral of this whole conversation is let the property do the work.
yeah.
And and be patient. Let the property do the work and be patient. What's the advice that you would give to people who are looking to invest in the Michigan market?
For experienced investors, value the speed versus the money. I've seen for like I said, for experienced investors, I've seen people put all their eggs in one basket on one property, and that one property really hurt them. And I'm talking about to the point where they've lost a lot, even though they've maybe made 30 grand, 20 grand. It's the amount of time that was put into that property. You could have done maybe two or three smaller properties and made triple that. So like I said, to experienced investors, I would look at speed as the biggest thing. So maybe go for, if you got to go and you invest in a cheaper home, I would do that. For a starting investor, non-experienced investor, my best advice is to learn. And the way you do that is you go buy the ugliest, the worst property you can find. And if it costs you, $1,000, that's the one you're going to learn, get all your learning from. Once you fix up that entire property and go through the process slowly, then then you should be okay. But
That makes a lot of
that's
sense.
yeah, that's honestly what makes me a lot different than everybody is I actually understand what I'm doing. You know, so you can cover a lot more ground using your head than you actually using your actual hands.
Mm, that's so true, especially because you've done the work yourself. And so there's little intricacies. Like I'm working on a flip right now, and somebody was mentioning like corner beads. And I was like, what is a corner bead? I never heard of a corner bead. Now I know what a corner bead is now, but when I bought the house, I had no idea what a corner bead was. And so like there's little things like even just the different gauge of like electrical wire and what different wires are for and all that stuff. Because if you just buy a house and you have cash and you have no knowledge, you'll be finessed. They're going to tell you everything in the world and F stuff up. And I think one of the ways that you should protect yourself is by having an inspection. But I mean, it's when you're talking about how you had that property that took you a lot of time, and you're talking about the property that you bought, we had to do everything on. I've done a few of those. I've done a house. The very first house that we did was like not the very first, but one of the homes we bought from the land bank, $1,000, and we did everything, like everything you could ever think of. And I learned so much from that process. But then I walked into a flip, and it was a much larger house. And you're talking about how buy smaller homes move faster. Like man, this thing is 3 stories with a basement. Like I'm struggling. Everything costs money. Everything costs a lot of money because it's such a big house. I mean, altogether, it's probably about like 3,000 square feet, if not more, including the basement. It's probably 4,000 square feet that you're working with. And so all that factors into a rehab. And if I knew that, I was like, you know what? I could have bought me a little bungalow joint, 1,000 square feet, been in and out, kitchen, bathroom, floor, and easy stuff. And this, I'm doing everything. Granted, I'm learning a lot and it is taking a long time, but I'm learning that like going forward, how to do that flip even better. So I know a lot of different things I didn't know from the beginning. So it is a learning process, like you were saying.
Yeah. How long have you been investing in real estate?
Man, it's probably like since 2018, 2017, 2018.
Okay.
And so we have about, I would say, about 10 doors in Detroit,
Okay.
approximately. And they've just been stressing me out. At first, it was really, really good. And then tenants stopped paying. And then Detroit changed the laws on all these different, like, they want you to be like registered as a rental property owner now. And they have all these different requirements for you to do that, like multiple steps you got to do, and lead abatements and inspections and all that. And I've just been kind of like tapped out on it, honestly. Um, because like you said, the rental income isn't that great. The rental income, in my opinion, is like a drop in the bucket. And then the way tenants do a lot of things, especially when you're out of state like me, is they will create issues that aren't issues. And so I'm dealing with a lot of repairs and a lot of maintenance and a lot of late night phone calls and a lot of late rent stuff. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just better off sticking with digital products and staying in that lane because that never
So,
failed me.
so let's quantify that, right? So when somebody says something, I'll always like say, okay, let's quantify it. So that means when we quantify something, that means we can understand it. That's what we do in engineering. So you said, and I said it as well, that the rent money is not that great. And the reason why we're saying it is because the rehab, right? So let me give you an example.
Rehab and repairs, rehab and
What,
repairs, ongoing repairs. So we fixed homes. Like for example, we fixed a home, burned out property, bottom to top, great looking house compared to what we bought it in. Tenant moved in, still made issues, still had complaints, still was finding stuff that was wrong with the property. And so we're constantly running back trying to fix things. Granted, we took the property from 0 to 95%. And I was like, this is crazy. And then the tenant was like, well, we're not paying rent anymore because this isn't fixed. Granted, I just spent $5,000 to dig up the sewer in the back of the house after already spending $30,000 on the inside of the house for repairs, and it's never ending. And granted, they're keeping somebody in the basement where you're not supposed to have somebody living in the basement. And so it was like all these issues, and it's like, this is ridiculous. I'm actually taking a loss right now.
So when I buy a property, I always buy it cash. That's another reason why I have the ability to waive all the inspections, appraisals, all that. Okay. And that's how I'm able to get the property so cheap. When I have to go before I move a tenant in, like you say, you go from 0 to 95%, you repair pretty much the whole property, and then the tenant moves in. I think was that how you're illustrating it? Okay.
Pretty much.
So one of my properties needed a $15,000 roof. So 15,000, when I'm probably netting about 500 to 600 on the property, that sucks. That doesn't cover the roof in that short period of time. But when I'm able to buy the property for 35,000 and that property's worth 150,000, now we're talking. That's exactly. I could replace that roof 10 times. You see where I'm going?
And that's why, like, in my opinion, the way I interpret things is rental income really is to maintain the asset. And a lot of us are taught cash flow, cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. And so you're expecting to get the rental income, live off the rental income and be gravy. And then when tenants call, you're like, you taking money out of my pocket, rent tenant. And so if you take it from that perspective where, okay, let me fix this with your money, not my money anymore, your money. And then by doing so, increasing the value of that home, which then increases the upside of that home, it makes sense.
Right. Like, no, that's a well explained. Like, I have about 5 or 6 mortgages. Let's say in 15 years, all 5 or 6 of those mortgages are paid off, right? Let's say in 15 years, I'm able to pull out 150 grand out of all 6 mortgages, right? So that's, what is that? 3, 6, 9. That's $900,000. You see where I'm going? So yeah, So you got to think, when you come in, you buy it low, you get the refinance, you get a lump sum there. You get this little, these little increments of money each month. Then later down the road, you come back, you pull all the equity out again. And now you can go do something. You have a bigger opportunity to do something even better, And sometimes, the opportunities worth more than the money is. I mean, $900,000, you can do a lot. We're just talking about 5 properties. I have 9. $900,000, you can do a lot with $900,000. I mean, you can do a lot of investing. So that's another way to look at it. Through opportunity.
It sounds like it's about perspective,
right?
And realizing what you're looking at, and realizing that you're playing a different game than that tenant might be paying. They're playing a month-to-month game. They're
Right.
paying I got to pay you $700, $800, $900 this month. Let me figure out a way to offset that. If it's a repair complaint, if it's a whatever complaint, if it's somebody sick, out of work, whatever that might be. And you're saying, okay, tenant, I'll let you win the battle because I'm playing the war. And so we're gonna ride this thing out. And I might not be making all this much money in the meantime, but I know long game it's gonna work out. And so when you look at it that way, it makes 100% sense. And you stop looking at day to day, it makes 100% sense.
Yeah. If you think about it too, like when you're renting out the property, your income is growing. Your potential to borrow money is getting higher, right? I can borrow a lot more money now than what I was able to borrow from when I started. When I started, I couldn't even get a cell phone in my name. I had a good credit score, but I didn't have no history of credit. It was hard back in 2014 to get money, to borrow money from the banks. I mean, now it's a phone call, like I said. So, and that's just because of the history I have with the lenders and stuff.
That makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. There's only so much a 9 to 5 is going to be able to do for you,
100%. Let the property do the work. Where do you see yourself in the future? 5 years from now, where we at?
To be honest with you, I don't really like real estate. I don't like it. I do it because of the money, I need to find something that's a lot easier 5 years from now, So I'm 33 now. In 5 years, I'll be almost 40. So I'll be walking out of working. So before I'm 40. So that's the goal, is to be able to drop everything and just do, work out, hang out after 40. So
I like it. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned throughout this whole process?
I would say networking. I would say networking is my lesson learned. I'm so used to doing things myself. When you're in like an individual sport, like I'm in, like powerlifting, you don't really need help to become a great powerlifter. But with the real estate, you need help from the banks. You need, the lady on the phone filling out the application for you. You need to have a good relationship with her. Your wife, you got to have a good relationship with her because she's the realtor. Some of the people who I do work with, like on my second house, one of the people I know just dropped over supplies for me, just because we had a good relationship. So I would say the networking and the relationships are the most important thing with the real estate.
Yeah,
that help you go a long way.
What was your most successful deal?
So my most successful deal was my third property. I bought it for 35 grand. It's probably worth about 150,000. I've only put about maybe 15 grand at best into it. And the reason why it's my most successful deal is that's because it took me 3 properties to understand how the refinance process worked. I bought that property in 2017 to give you a perspective on the like when I bought it and stuff and the value point. But without the refinancing, there's no way I would have owned what I own today. Without me going and understanding, okay, I got to buy this cash, I got to negotiate as hard as I can on the front end with my realtor, right? There's no way I could own as much real estate. There's, you understand what I'm trying to say? Because I've only been working since 2015, like at my regular job. So mathematically, if you think about the income when I'm working to now, it's just the money has to come from somewhere, either selling or refinancing. In my situation, so it came from refinancing. Me buying that third property, understanding how a cash or refinance works, knowing that if I put granite countertops in this property, it won't increase the value, drastically how many people think it's going to change the value of the property. But like I said, buying in low and buying in with the equity, that's why that third property was my best property out of all of them, my best deal.
It kind of sounds like you've been learning as you go.
Yeah, safely.
Yeah.
You got to keep everything safe because it takes one mistake to lose everything as well. It doesn't take much. So
how are you able to manage everything that you have so far, like in terms of the rehabs and tenants and all that stuff?
That's a great question. So apartments.com is what I use to maintain the water bill payments, rent collections, to track everything. I do that through apartments.com. The maintenance thing, I use just email system. And my wife also helps manage because some of my tenants don't speak any English. So, I can't speak Spanish. So she handles that portion of it. But for the most part, I don't have a lot of rehab repairs to make on properties. Knock on wood. I don't get calls like that all the time. Like, if anything, I have to call them and say, hey, I need to come through the property to walk through to make sure everything is good. So, and when I walk through, it's not to see what you're doing and all like that. It's really just to make sure that there's no water leaks, the furnace is working properly, air filters changed, that kind of thing. If something happens outside, typically the city will let me know, so I can go online that way. So it's very manageable from it's very manageable with just one person.
Yeah. Man, I'm kind of out of questions, but I'm curious because you did mention that you're a power lifter. And I always believe that like athletes have an advantage in business.
Yeah.
How do you feel that you're? Yeah.
So when I tell the guys all the time, when I go in the gym, and you see that, like, if you see like somebody come in by themselves late at night and they're working out hard, it says a lot about their character. It takes a lot of discipline to go to work all day, still have enough energy to come in at night and get it done. And those are the people you want to be around in the gym because they're probably successful somewhere else. So I try to use that. I try to use my time in the gym to talk to successful people. And that's where I ran into a lot of the good friends I have today that are doing very well financially. They're in the gym, they're disciplined, and they're working hard. They're, like I said, they're probably doing something very well outside. So
I think there's something also about challenging yourself and then pushing through it. Because and when you're exercising, when you're putting up weight, in order to get to the next level, you got to challenge yourself. You got to push through pain. You got to push through your mind. Your mind has to get out of the way. You got to deal with the fatigue. You got to feel all these different things and do it anyway. And I think a lot of times in business or in entrepreneurship is people can say, you know what, that's the result I want, but I'm not willing to do the stuff that I need to get there. But people who are athletes, they have to do the stuff. It's not just like wishing and hoping and wanting. They know that there's a process between the desire and their current situation. And I think athletes understand that, especially people who are in the gym every day understand that. I think it translates to business.
Yeah, you just not being afraid, that's biggest thing. I mean, there's some people that are afraid just to get on this live cam, you know. I mean, it like for example, I'm trying to get to a 500-pound bench very soon, and you got to be willing. When I mean afraid, it's not being afraid to get underneath the bar, but injury, right? My ability to, I'm very prone to injury, benching 450 every time I go into the gym, right? But the only way I'm going to get there is by exposing myself and by putting myself at risk. It's just like every time you take out a cash or refinance loan, you know, you're going to put yourself at risk of not, there's a small percentage chance that you're not going to be able to pay that loan, no matter how much verification the bank does, right? But I have to put myself at risk, and I have to borrow this loan to go and acquire these properties. You know, that's just how it goes. You know, to get to the next level, you got to expose yourself. So it goes hand in hand. And once you understand that, you know, not you, but, you know, talking in general, once, you know, that person understands that, then, you know, the rest is behind you. So
that's a bar. I'm gonna hit you with the wrap up questions. First one is, what's your favorite business or investing book?
I would say my favorite investing book is real estate wise is in Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Keller's William. They have the audio version. I've heard it 2 or 3 times in the car on the way to work. It's a good book because it gives you safe fundamentals. It doesn't really talk about like loans. It doesn't go into detail about loans and stuff like that, but it gives you the safe fundamentals of understanding the asset. So I think that's a good book to start off with. I gave that to I had a few friends read that book. That started to invest in real estate. They liked it. And then the second book was The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. I love that book. And the reason why is because it teaches you to go further. You know, it gives you the drive to go above and beyond, you know. Some people, you know, they make $1 million and they stop there. Some people, they make enough money and they you know, take a step back. That book really teaches you to keep going, you know, and look for more. So
yeah. Very true. What's your favorite podcast?
Todd.
We out here, man.
I would say the Bigger Pockets podcast. Personally, I dig into that a lot. And it's really, there's a lot of smart people that answer most of the questions that I don't even think about. Right on that Bigger Pockets platform. So that's my favorite in my opinion. Yeah.
What sets apart successful investors from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
Let's see. Say the second part of the question again, please.
What sets apart successful investors from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
I would say understanding. You have to understand the problem. You know, if you can understand the problem and identify a way to solve it and believe in that, I think that is really the separation there. A lot of people just don't understand the problem, and then something bad happens. They deter from it. They don't take time to understand exactly what's going on. You know, because the easy way for many people's problems is just to simply walk away. You know, like for example, let's use this. I don't want to go to Flint because the water crisis. Well, do you understand the water crisis, right? Do you understand what's going on out there? The reason why I don't have my rent out there is $975 for a house I paid $28,000 for. And yes, I'm not talking about for 1 month. I have tenants that are on 3-year contracts in Flint. Okay. And in these homes, I mean, they're in great condition.
I thought about going to Flint, man. I really did. I was like, I need to go check out Flint.
It cracks me up. Yeah, I get a lot of the Flint questions. And the difference between a tenant in Flint versus a tenant in Pontiac is that the tenant in Pontiac wants to buy your house. The tenant in Flint does not want to buy your house. They just want to be a tenant, you know? So I always have to tell tenants in Pontiac, no, I'm not selling the house to you, you know? Where in Flint, they only want to, you know, rent the house out to you forever. So
I would say Detroit's the same way. They want to buy your house.
But yeah, it's really just understanding the problem. So like I said, with the water crisis, I found out by doing my own research that when you go out there, I think it was homes that are built after 1950, you didn't have to worry. They have a whole lead-based map that you can research, where they already like certified most of the lines and stuff like that. So if you can refer to that map for the certified homes that don't have lead. But most of the old homes, like 1929, those have lead-based pipes. So those homes are out of the question. But the newer homes, you should be good to go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Man, what does wealth mean to you?
Power. You know, you don't have to answer your question, you don't have to make millions of dollars to be as powerful as somebody who's already a millionaire. You can make $500,000 a year and be way more powerful than that person, you know? And I think that's the key with real estate. Real estate gives me a lot of power. Like, I'm able to house family members I'm able to provide housing for some of my family members for, you know, a third of what they would pay on the regular market, you know? That's power, you know what I'm trying to say? And when I'm able to do that by not, I'm able to do that by not hurting myself, you know, financially. So that's what I would consider, you know, being able to pick up the phone and you know, because I provide housing to roofers and construction workers, being able to pick up the phone and ask for someone to install a roof for half the price. That's power. So that's what wealth means to me, you know, because, you know, think about it. You know, you have, you know, most people don't understand the difference of Warren Buffett's wealth versus Grant Cardone's wealth, right? But Grant Cardone owns everything in Florida. You see where I'm going? So, you know, you ask yourself who's more powerful. So just as an example. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, great conversation. Dope mindset. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you? And where can they support anything that you have going on?
I would say you can go to Darius_1of1. You can also please follow my wife's Instagram. So Darius_1of1 is my Instagram, and my wife's Instagram is Homes with Star. So Homes with Star. Follow her in there. If you have any real estate questions, either one of us can provide answers to. If you're looking for a home in the Michigan area, my wife would be glad to help you. But yeah, that's where you can contact me at.
Dope. Great conversation.
I appreciate the call and your time today. You know, it's great. Thank you.
We made it work, man. We made it work. Matic12 said another good one. So shout out to this brother. Thank you for tuning in. He was there in the beginning and he stayed to the end. I know you guys got a lot of really good value out of this. So make sure you guys follow him and his wife. Make sure you guys click subscribe, share the channel, click like on the video, because we're trying to blow this podcast up on a new platform. We've already done really well outside of other platform streaming, but I'm trying to take it to YouTube. So that's why we're doing this on StreamYard, so we can broadcast it directly onto YouTube instead of with Zoom, where you got to download it and upload it and reload it and side load it. We just want to do it straight to the source. So great conversation, man. We'll definitely be linking up. I'll hit you up if I'm out in Michigan again. I need to be out there, and once the weather gets a little bit more normal, and they can fly planes in there, I'm gonna be back into Detroit so I can finish this home and so I can move on to the next one. And it might be in Flint. I don't know. We'll see.
Next time you come to Michigan, we can take a drive around the Pontiac area, and I can. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, definitely.
That'd be cool. All right, y'all. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, bye.
I should have done my